Okay, I'm going to go through the examiner's feedback for your unseen question in your English Literature Paper 1 practice. Just a reminder that it was based on the poem My Box by Gillian Clarke. So just a quick reminder, because I know it's been a while since you sat this. I'll just quickly read through the poem and remind you of the question, and then we'll get on with the examiner feedback. So my box is made of golden oak, my lover's gift to me. He fitted hinges and a lock of brass and a bright key. He made it out of winter nights, sanded and oiled and planed, engraved inside the heavy lid in brass, a golden tree. In my box are 12 black books where I have written down how we have sanded, oiled and planed, planted a garden, built a wall, seen jays and goldcrests, rare red kites, found the wild heartsease, drilled a well, harvested apples and words and days, and planted a golden tree. On an open shelf I keep my box, its key is in the lock. I leave it there for you to read, or them when we are dead, how everything is slowly made, how slowly things made me, a tree, a lover, words, a box, books, and a golden tree. And the question was, explore how the writer presents the box and its contents in this poem. And in your answer, as always, it will always ask you to talk about descriptive skills, choice of language, use of form and structure. And so overall feedback firstly from examiners. So the highlights, those what they notice in the kind of the strongest answers were many were able to link the descriptions to the poet's ideas of love, life and memories rather than seeing it as a literal box, but really thinking about the metaphorical meaning of that box and what it represented. At a more sophisticated level, some were able to explore the idea of love being cultured and maintained, so something that you have to work at over a longer period of time. Some explored this speaker's impending death or old age and how this is symbolised in the poem. So this idea that maybe this is someone who is older or in old age, kind of reflecting back on their life. Responses were well structured overall, so most responses followed a PEE or PEA format. And best responses continually linked back to an overall meaning of the poem to show that greater understanding. So areas for development, kind of typical things that I saw as well in some of your answers. Some responses were too clinical by focusing too much on identifying techniques rather than interpreting the meaning of the poem. Remember, it's not enough just to spot a simile and say it's a simile and move on. You have to explain the meaning of it. It's actually better to explain the meaning of a line than actually identify the technique. You'll get more marks for talking about the meaning of that line, even if you've forgotten the technique. It's better if you can remember, but what's more value, it's definitely the meaning of the poem rather than just simply identifying techniques. There was some confusion over the poet and who gave the speaker the box. Comments needed to cover the whole poem, so I noticed this a lot, that sometimes the quotes that we were using and what we were analysing came from the first stanza and that was it. So you need to make sure that your quotes pick apart the poem as a whole and you think about how that poem develops. It would be difficult to get marks for structure if you're not considering how the poem develops throughout. Some candidates incorrectly explored the connotations of black by linking it to evil. Remember, when we've looked at language analysis, it's really important to think of the context within the poem or whatever text we're looking at. Black won't always represent evil. Red doesn't always represent blood, as an example. Okay, you've got to think about how it's being used and if it's a logical analysis. There needs to be more focus on explaining why form and structure of use. I definitely saw this. We're very comfortable talking about language. We're very comfortable talking about literary techniques. Not so comfortable in talking about form and structure yet. And also to use shorter quotations, especially when doing language analysis. You want to really zoom into those specific words or phrases to show your appreciation of the writer's choices of language rather than copying down a whole line or 2 lines. Okay, so what are some of the overall meanings that you could have taken from this? And you may have had more, but these are kind of the main ones that I noticed and that were definitely credible. So the box is a metaphor for a couple's life, their family tree and love. Um, the meaning of the poem may have been that anything of worth takes time to build. You could have talked about it really being someone who's reflecting on their life in old age and like looking back at the life that they built with their loved one and the family that they built, and the incredible value of memory as well. So that could have been kind of an overarching meaning, and then feed into what makes these memories wonderful, and it's her life with her loved one. So let's have a look. I do find personally, I find descriptive skills, I must say, descriptive skills and language, they overlap. So you could look at some of this and think, well, that's actually language and that's fine. But this is from the examiner's feedback. So for descriptive skills, you could have focused on golden. I did see this quite a bit in your analysis, so well done. The fact that it's referred to as golden conveys value. So we know that this box represents something very valuable. Oak is a symbol of strength. And so does that represent their relationship, that she feels like their relationship is incredibly strong? And my lover's gift to me. So is this box really not just a literal box, but a metaphor for marriage, metaphor for their life, their commitment, so the metaphor for the memories that they've given them? So you could have looked at it in a number of ways. And also, there's definitely more that you could have mentioned. I'm just kind of highlighting the main ones. How we have sanded, oiled, and plain. So this is a metaphor for the difficulties in their lives. Doesn't suggest that their life was perfect and plain sailing. It took hard work. Look at all the things they did, and you could have commented on something else here as well. Planted a garden, built a wall. These things take time and they take effort. So there's also an element of, if something is worth having, you have to work hard for it. I leave it there for you to read, or them when we are dead. So it's quite ambiguous. We don't know if this is about them, who they are, but I imagine it being their kin. But it's this idea of leaving something behind, leaving those memories, leaving the love that they've created in their family, as well. So the box, remember, doesn't have to be a literal box of memories. And then looking at language, quite a few things to talk about here. Look at the possessive pronoun, and quite a few people mention this. So it emphasises she cherishes the box, she feels like it belongs to her. This is a personal poem as well, you could have mentioned. He fitted it with hinges and a lock, a symbol of permanence and connection as well. And then looking at some of the things that they did, which I've kind of talked about already, planting a garden, building a wall. This is planting a garden could be a metaphor for creating a family, and building a wall is a metaphor potentially for creating a secure life for the family, protecting themselves. Look at the alliteration of rare, red, emphasises the rare special moments they have experienced. Drilling a well, is it literally drilling a well, or are they actually talking about forming a deeper relationship over time? Harvested apples and words and days, so together they've gathered these experiences and memories like you might harvest. And then it's on an open shelf, so there's an indication there that their willingness to share these memories and these experiences and this love that's been created in this really beautiful relationship. Its key is in the lock, so again, the fact that the key is left in the lock shows that willingness to share as well. Then looking at form and structure, please pay close attention to this, because this, I think, was the weakest area for most students. So having a look at, for instance, we'll go through these that are highlighted first. So the fact that golden oak is kind of referred to throughout, or a golden tree. It's a motif, and it's talking about reliability and permanence, the fact that it is a motif. Look at the contrast as well between brass and bright key. Emphasizes beauty of the box or the memories created. So those are bright colours that would stand out against the oak. And then looking here at slowly, so of them when we are dead, how everything is slowly made. There's a steadiness and longevity of life and memories being made. So there's this idea again of this relationship was built on slowly. This didn't happen overnight. They didn't create this special family or these special memories overnight. This took time and this took effort to maintain and build on. It begins and ends with tree, so this is a cyclical structure, you could have said, and that may reflect the cyclical nature of life, the continuation of family and memories through their kin. That's why they leave these memories and this love behind. They're willing to share it with their kin. And then let's have a look at the stanzas. So the first stanza has a regular rhyme scheme, and that contrasts with the rest of the poem. So you might argue this sets the scene, introduces an overview. The middle stanza is a listing. So this, you might say, represents the longevity of life, the variety of life. The enjambment really, either you could say is a flow of memory, because everything she's looking back, so everything's kind of coming back to her. Or does it actually show the flow of life, how everything just kind of flowed through? So those are some things that you could have mentioned. There's definitely more things that you could have. Those overall of what I saw in most people's, just unfortunately didn't see them all in one answer. But please pay special attention to this. This is where you'll lose marks if you haven't mentioned form and structure. And notice that things that are highlighted are throughout the poem. So you need to be able to take quotations from different parts of the poem, and if you're struggling with that, one way of doing that is looking at structure and thinking about how this develops throughout.